We acknowledge the traditional owners of country throughout Australia and recognise their continuing connection to land, waters and culture. We pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging. This is Cheryl from Jajawarong country. Welcome everyone to episode 83 of our Beyond 90 podcast. My name's Cheryl Downs. My pronouns are she, her. We've also got Maj on the call and Eric, and hopefully shortly we'll grab Stefan. Maj, it's a bit tough to say how was your week, but it was only a day where Brisbane didn't do so well. So hopefully the week has been okay.
Yeah, it's just a lovely, like if you're not dreading your Monday more than usual, like ending off your weekend the way we did yesterday was a bit of a bummer, but yeah, we'll get to that. We'll get to the misery, my misery, but then that's my misery is other people's joy. So you got to look at it that way.
I like your thoughtfulness and your appreciation that the world is bigger than just Madge. How about you, Eric? Is the world bigger than just Eric, or is it Eric's a happy guy?
Yeah, it is, but like my brand just keeps expanding. I've like conquered 3 different countries and I'm always looking for more territory. So maybe one day my brand will actually be the entire world.
Talk about your brand. Where are these countries that you're conquering? Because I haven't seen, it's not in our show notes.
It's the usual feed: Republic of Ireland, Philippines, and Australia. So, you know. Very
good. All right. And we'll wait we won't wait, but we'll soon have Stefan on the call. Dale's taking a break today. I don't know if he's working or not, but g'day, Dale. Shout out to you anyway. Let's talk about episode 83, Matildas Cap number 83. Michelle Watson is cap number 83. And it's really interesting to go through the history of the Matildas and hear these names that you don't necessarily know. And I'll say, Michelle, I'm sorry, I don't know your name, but it's always lovely for me to do a little bit of research, a little bit of a chat with Grooves, who I think is enjoying the memories that we're bringing back by asking her the questions of when she was the team manager for the Matildas. And she gives us a little bit of an update. She doesn't give us any of the juicy details, which is fine. Michelle Watson made her Matildas debut in 1994. We've been in 1994 for so many podcasts now. There's been a number of them. Michelle was 17 on her debut. She played her grassroots club was the Bankstown Strikers, 24 appearances for the Matildas. And if I go through and talk about what I've been calling the Groobs line until I find something better than that, is a very mature midfielder at a very young age, great ball control, and her brain and body could move at great speed, which I think is pretty amazing. She had it on a string and could change the direction of play and of the game in a split second. She was in my age group at the Youth Nationals playing for New South Wales and was literally impossible to contain. So congratulations, Michelle Watson. Thank you for being part of the Matildas era of amazingness, delivering the game to all of us as super fans and fans out there watching the game. It's been great to have you on board.
Nutmegged a few times.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we won't put that out there. That's hardly fair, but given that she's our hardworking, off the scenes kind of person. But all right, let's talk about hot topics of the week. And the first thing that I had on my list was something that I'm not going to talk about right now, because one of the things that tends to happen in football is that we'll do our podcast on a Monday night, and then after Monday night, Tuesday morning or Monday, an hour later, there's news of Katrina Gorry going off and signing somewhere. Very fun for me, very interesting, hopefully for lots of our viewers or listeners. A pride match has been announced in the A-League women and men, to the best of my knowledge. Adelaide United taking up the banner. We've seen some photos on social media of some great kit. So some some Adelaide United kit with pride colours on them. Question for Eric, are you going to buy one of those, given that you own a couple?
One can never have enough Matilda McNamara jerseys, so then the numbers look incredible as well. As like, so I feel like it's going to be a one-off, but if it's actually for sale, then I hope I get in, because I imagine it would be one of them, one of those limited edition type kind of things.
It'd be really interesting to know what the sales are of merchandise in the AFLW, where they've been doing pride rounds for, I don't know, as many seasons maybe as the AFLW's been around. But I think it's great, and it's something I've been pushing for. It's something that I've asked the question of APL, and they haven't actually responded to me on that. APL have been doing a pretty good job in responding to people, but on that one, I didn't particularly get a response. So it'd be interesting I'd love Melbourne Victory to have a kit. I'd love for all the teams to have a Pride kit, and I think they'd get some merch sales out of it as well. Maj, is that a highlight for you in seeing that we've got more diversity and inclusion?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fabulous. I mean, I think the same, though, at Brisbane, we sort of fans have raised the idea of a Pride round before, and it hasn't gotten much traction, which has been, I guess, disappointing. So it's great to actually see Adelaide taking the impetus and actually really pushing forward with the round, and I would really hope to see maybe next season the rest of the clubs actually get on board. And absolutely, Adelaide, I hope you're selling that kit, because I'm sure there'll be lots of Adelaide fans and non-Adelaide fans that would love to get behind such a fantastic event. Because football isn't necessarily always the most welcoming place in Australian sporting societies. I mean, unfortunately, but so I think it's great the more inclusion and visibility, just really making it clear that the clubs really support everyone supporting their clubs.
Yep. So early shout out from me to the monarchy of the week, if there's any such thing. I mean, it's no doubt a group of people behind Adelaide United who have helped put that together. I'm not sure who they're playing against, and that's remiss of me, but that's the reality of having a working job. But
I think it's Melbourne. They're playing Melbourne in the women's game, and then the Wellington in the men's, I think.
No, it's Central Coast Mariners.
Central Coast,
I believe.
All right. So in terms of details for anyone who's listening, and I'm not sure if that match is going to be, and Eric said that he wouldn't go off and research things on the side to try and help his internet, but maybe this is something that you can research, Eric. Is that the telecast game on free-to-air TV, which would be brilliant? Because otherwise, if people are listening to the show and you're not a subscriber to Paramount Plus, which is how you watch the A-League women in Australia, there is one match per round, which is on free-to-air. So you'd be able to see that on 10 Bold, I think it is, and that'd be terrific. But anyway, next Saturday, the 26th of February is when we'll see that match. And superb for Adelaide at the moment, because what are they, third on the table? Third. Now, so they're having a brilliant season, have never made finals before. So Adelaide, you rock. Eric, all yours. You wanted to jump in.
I believe the free-to-air game's the Sunday game. This is on a Saturday, so unfortunately, I don't think. Is that right?
No, I think that may be right.
Yeah.
What I to our listeners out there, and if anyone's on social media, or if you feel like dropping a note to Paramount Plus or something, there'd be feeds for all of this stuff. See if you can ping Paramount Plus and say, or Australian professional leagues, and say, what are the chances that we can get this on free-to-air TV? Because this would be a great statement for the league to show its inclusion and diversity, and have a round with some extra aura around it, because otherwise it's a stock standard round or a stock standard game, and we'd love to see more of that. Anyway, that's my call to action.
It does look like it's the Melbourne City at home, against Sydney.
That's next week. Although the Pride game's the weekend after.
Oh, is it?
Which I believe would be Perth to Sydney. Perth. Oh, is it Western Sydney?
Western Sydney and
another
Phoenix
Sydney game
on the 27th. If it's that one.
It'd be good to see you. Well, actually, to be fair, Phoenix deserve to beat the Wanderers on free-to-air TV, so that's not too bad. But
in a Pride kit, which they won't be having.
We'd love 2 games. Just throw it on.
Yes.
Yeah.
We don't need those Friends replays.
We don't. Yeah.
It won't annoy any of the fans of women's football, or hopefully football in general. Obviously, Adelaide United has the one and only male footballer who is out and proud. So they're obviously walking the talk as well. It's interesting that it has to be a club with a connection that does it first up. I'd love to see some drive behind Australian professional leagues to get that out there, but I'm not behind the details and the discussions. I don't know how much is included in that. Let's talk about more news. It's not just about this amazing Pride game that we'll see. FIFA's international transfer snapshot was released. So this is released in February, but for January numbers. And I'll read out a couple of quotes because I found it fascinating. 42.8% increase in the number of transfers during this year's January registration period compared to January 2021. The total stood at 257 transfers, a new all-time high, surpassing the pre-pandemic levels of January 2020 by almost 40%. This is just women's football specifically. So the report is around men's and women's. Some of it I don't want to talk about because the men's, if I just talk about the women's total spendings on transfer fees around the globe amounted to just under $500,000 compared to just over $1 billion in the men's game. It's a massive industry, and these are just transfer fees. These are not salaries or operating costs or anything. Eric, Maj, your thoughts about how this plays into improvements in women's football, or maybe highlights a gap in women's football to men's football as well, because we've not always had official transfers in Australia, or do we even?
I don't believe so.
No,
I don't think we have anything, especially within Australia. I guess, and listeners, if you can probably jump on the post after the pod to see the actual infographic here, but it's really interesting that AFC, there were a few transfers, but there was zero money attached to them as well, which you would think for the development of a league here in Australia, yes, we want to be a strong and competitive league, but I think part of what we should be aiming for when you've got larger leagues in Europe and the United States getting stronger, when our players who might start off in the A-League women move over to these international leagues, we want to see some return on investment as well. So, and this is where I'm absolutely not an expert, but is the reason we don't get significant transfer fees for the players that have moved over because we don't have our players here on the contracts, but that would actually trigger those sorts of clauses. So Eric might know more about this.
It's the 1 year deal thing.
Yeah.
That basically
some
the
of them
players
aren't
are
even
out of
1
contract.
year.
And so this is the issue. So I mean, so it goes back to your issue with our our league being quite short, and many players aren't getting those multi-year contracts here, and then the clubs are missing out on a burgeoning potential income stream as transfer fees continue to increase in women's football around the world. So.
Yeah, and I don't know whether or not there's a case for domestic transfer fees, but once we're talking about Sam Kerr moving from Perth Glory or Sydney FC or wherever she was playing over to Chicago Red Stars, or before them Western New York Flash and those kind of things, then that's the sort of money that might be able to fund back into the game. In this case, I'm imagining for Sam Kerr, and I'm making it up because I don't know, but I'm sometimes well informed, sometimes not, sorry about that, but there would have been in theory a transfer fee from Sam playing in Chelsea now, but where was she before then? Was it Sky Blue, or was it or Chicago Red Stars?
She was two teams before. This is the tricky thing. She was Perth and Chicago Red Stars.
But was she at Perth on loan?
That's the other thing.
The thing that some people might not recognise is that when we have some of our Matildas playing here in Australia, so Steph Catley, for example, a couple of years ago playing for Melbourne City, you would think, Melbourne City, they've got her rights. They don't always. So Steph Catley, I'm making it up again, but it could have been when she was with pick any name out of the NWSL. Was it Orlando Pride or something or other? So the players still play in Australia sometimes, but they're not owned, or their contracts aren't owned by the Australian clubs. Going forward, that might change. I know that there have been some conversations. I think James Johnson, not long ago, was talking about some of these kind of things, but I can't profess to be an expert. But one of the things which was interesting, and you look at the rate in football at the moment around particular nations, and Spain is one that if you're not paying attention to women's football in Spain, then you're really missing out on some of the most interesting and influential football that's going on. But they registered the highest number of incoming transfers, 46 players. And then that's also, it wasn't the most money. So the FAWSL in England led the way with around about $250,000. Spain had just over $100,000. So more players moving in and around Spain, but more money in the English league where they've got amazing people. Any further thoughts on the transfers out there and how it's good for the game or not good for the game?
It's good if you can set the players up with contracts long enough for clubs to compete. So this transfer thing doesn't really help if players are still on single season deals, unfortunately.
Yep, very true. All right, more news in football around the week. NPL TV, which has been a great spot for people to jump onto during the state seasons, which run for, 22 plus rounds. It's actually much longer than the A-League Women's. They've just announced a position with Clutch TV. So there are 4 federations, I think, which are going to live stream their matches on NPL TV. That includes Football Victoria, Football South Australia, Capital Football, and Football New South Wales, I think, from the best of my knowledge. So the really good thing about this is it makes football really accessible at that level for people to watch around Australia. And I don't think there's any geo-blocking, so it can be watched around the world. People can take their highlight packages from there. And we do have a number of international players playing in those competitions as well. So it's good for family and friends and whatnot to be able to watch them as well. And then the last thing I've got on there was something that was a little bit, not weird, but just, I don't know really how it landed, but the inaugural Women's Football Legacy Cup. So we've just been through all the hoopla about the FFA Cup and how it's the last season for that one, and it'll be renamed the Australia Cup. And then we have the inaugural Women's Football Legacy Cup, which you would think, might be some big teams playing in that, but it was actually some politicians, ex-Matildas, Grace Gill, just trying to think who else was in there, some current players as well from A-League Women's. I wasn't really sure what the competition was, what the cup is completely about. Eric, Maj?
It looked like a fun kick around, really.
Yep.
With some, get the politicians on board, as always go to put football front and centre, and where better to do it than the nation's capital. And when we've got a World Cup coming to our shores, I think it was a great opportunity to to get some of the Canberra power brokers in and loving the game, and making sure that the legacy for the Women's World Cup is one that's shared by the full football community.
It just seemed a bit weird to me, though, that it wasn't really a thing. It was just an announcement after the fact. I'd love to have, maybe it stems from me wanting to have a proper cup for women, a proper national cup of some sort. And we have this legacy cup, and it was just a kick and giggle. And, I'd like to think that women's football is beyond that. So anyway, that happened. There's a link in our show notes. You can go off and have a look at it. I mean, I should be happy that there's women's football just out there generally. All right, Matildas, they're taking a well-being break. That was the announcement around the February window that we have. We were wondering whether or not they'd be playing in the Algarve, which is next week, I think. There's a number of competitions, which are international competitions, which are on at the moment. But the Matildas did announce that even before the Asian Cup, they had decided to take a well-being break, not just for the players, but for the staff and support as well. So we will see, in theory, the Matildas back in action in the next FIFA window in April. That's probably the news I've got for the Matildas generally, but we'll move on to some dub news. And I feel like it'd be disingenuous for me to go through too much of the detail because I had some problems watching the games this time around. I saw a couple of them, but I haven't seen all of them. So I don't know, Eric, if you want to lead us through to it and then gently hold Maj's hand as we get down towards the result for Brisbane.
We need Stefan, because misery needs company.
Unfortunately, he's got even more misery. He's got a he's got a new computer. It's telling him he needs to download Windows 11, so will not be on tonight. But I will. Well, no, I wanted Wellington to win, so I can't provide any misery, unfortunately, from Friday night. But anyway, the thing before we get to the results, there was also the announcement today that Perth Glory, due to the ongoing border issues, they're taking 3 men's games and 1 women's game to Launceston in Tasmania. So Perth will be playing Sydney FC in the A-League Women's in Launceston on Sunday, the 27th of February. And given that that's 2 New South Wales-based teams, I think that's absolutely ridiculous. I'll watch it, but I suppose it's good for Molly Appleton and our Tanner Code, but I don't know why we're having 2 teams based in the same city flying such a long distance to play a game of football and flying back. Oh well.
They're used to flying. Maybe they're just like, we're used to flying. The New South Wales teams need to get on a plane.
Yeah. It's performance equalization. It's like, well, you've had it too good for too long, New South Wales based teams. Okay, so on to the results there. So 7 games since the last pod, so we can breeze through this, I think. Okay, so it feels so long ago. Tuesday, up in Newcastle, Melbourne victory 1-0 over the Jets. They had plenty of chances, probably, but there in the end, came up from the skies and headed in off a lovely free kick from Alana Murphy. On to Thursday, I went up to Gosford. Perth defeat Adelaide 1-0. So once again, it's the Deborah and Delaharp set pieces. They were fantastic. She took the early corner for Miele Ethians to score. I mean, at the time, Adelaide would have felt aggrieved about their disallowed goal. Look, didn't look to be anything wrong like that about it, but let's be clear, they probably don't care anymore. It's actually a good backs to the wall performance from Perth because Susan Fonksonkamp got sent off with about half an hour remaining. Then Friday night, it's basically the story everyone that isn't a Canberra fan wanted to see. Wellington defeated Canberra 3-0. Goals from Chloe Knott, Grace Jale, and an Ali Heron own goal. My thought on this was, just the development of Wellington over the course of this short season has been fantastic to watch. Their head coach, Gemma Lewis, she's done more planning in 5 months than the Western Sydney Wanderers have done in 10 seasons. And it was nice to see a player named Grace score a left-footed goal in Canberra.
Eric, I'm not sure we need to save your bandwidth a little bit. You're breaking up a little bit, at least for me. I'm not sure if you're breaking up for Madge as well, but I just wanted to say that I think if anyone listens back to the pod from last week, I think I predicted that maybe Wellington would win this match against Canberra. And I have to say, Canberra are my favourite non-Melbourne based team. So I love Canberra. I love the atmosphere. I love the crowds and just the way that, I haven't been to Viking Park, but the way that it used to be at McKellar Park was always a favourite for me. But I really did think that this was a game for Wellington to take away. They'd been playing better week on week and they put it all together. The fact that they won 3-0 is not something that I expected, but tough position for Canberra at the moment. They still haven't won a game. I think they've got 4 draws, so they've got a few points, but the very first win for the Wellington Phoenix. So super happy for them and very well done.
Yep. Well said. So then Saturday, yes. So Melbourne victory 5, Western Sydney Wanderers 0, double for Catherine Zimmerman, goal for Mindy Barbieri, then Kyra Cooney-Cross and Courtney Nevin scoring against their former club. So that was basically the kind of ruthlessness victory did not show against the Jets. Much Jeff Hopkins will be pleased.
I just on that as well, and Madge, I'm not sure if you saw the game or saw the highlights, but I love how Courtney Nevin just lined up that goal and took a crack and top goal. Yeah. I'm not suggesting it was a cross at all. I think she lined it up directly, and that was the intent the whole time.
That was a cross. No, we're not giving. No. that's
why not? Oh, it's always good when Eric's audio and internet loses itself a little bit when I'm just saying how I thought it was a perfect shot on goal. I was just taking the mickey. It absolutely was a cross, but it was a beautiful cross and it worked out well.
Looked nice though. I'll give it that.
Yes, very well executed. Keep going.
Let's see. So the victory, that's really, we love seeing debuts. So 15-year-old Ella Abdul Masid made her debut for Western Sydney Wanderers, a highly rated attacking midfielder that has been to a junior Matildas training camp last year. So there was some nice touches. She's clearly not afraid of taking a few risks out there. But other than that, really, I suppose the less said about the Wanderers, the better, because that was a very yikes performance. So then on to basically Super Sunday, 3 games on Sunday. It's just basically we were almost spoiled for choice. I went up to Gosford again to see Melbourne City defeat Perth Glory 4-0. It was Melbourne City's attacking trio of Holly McNamara, Hannah Wilkinson, and Rihanna Polachina doing the damage, a double for Holly McNamara and a goal each from Wilkinson and Polachina. I like the impact Letitia McKenna made off the bench.
So I was just saying how Hannah Wilkinson is on top of the goal scoring, the Golden Boot Award at the moment with a couple of rounds still to go, but she's looking pretty good there. But I think there was, and I'm just trying to think, it was the next match between Brisbane and Adelaide, which, Maj, I'm not sure if you watched it or if you have repressed the memory already.
I was in the stands. I'm not really across
that doesn't mean that you watched it.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly the point. So, I mean, it's one of those games. Like I went into it, I mean, probably not confident. I mean, Adelaide, I was expecting them to make the top 4, and especially after coming off that disappointing loss to Perth, I wasn't sure whether or not, they actually just maybe bottling it, or are they going to come out firing? And they came out firing. They had they were really intense and then put a lot of pressure on Brisbane, who, for going into the season for Brisbane, I was like, well, we don't really have much of a defence, but we sort of managed to do relatively okay. But then, this was the game where you're going to ship 8 goals against a really hungry Adelaide. And you know what? I'd kind of given up on making finals anyway, and I'm glad to see that Adelaide are making their finals appearance a fairly strong case for that. So that's the positive that I'll take.
Plus 15 goal difference for them as well over.
Absolutely, that's going to help out
over Perth Glory. So they're 3 points up on Perth Glory, and I think they've played the same number of games, but I mean, pending the results that are coming, it's plus 15 goal difference is a pretty nice way to go. It must have been Adelaide's biggest win ever as well, Eric. I don't know if you're around. This is a question for you, or there you go.
I think it might be Brisbane's biggest loss. I'm not sure, but
Brisbane. Adelaide's biggest win is 2 over Western Sydney Wanderers in January 2017.
Ouch. And it's interesting that we've had so many compressed games. So Adelaide played on Thursday and on Sunday. Mm-hmm. Brisbane were the team probably with the most rest out of any of the clubs because they've only had 1 game out of those 7 that we had this week.
Yeah. I mean, the thing about Brisbane is you go into the seasons always optimistic, and but it is a very, very different team to last year. It was very much a team drawn from the local leagues here in Brisbane and Southeast Queensland, and you're always hopeful that they're going to click, and they have looked good, but maybe just lacking a few more of those quality players to just they're sort of reminding me of one of those teams that just almost there sometimes, and teams that just are lacking that little bit of consistent quality are apt to get results like this. They're apt to cause an upset here and there and look good and look like that. Like, I mean, they put in a really great performance against Sydney just the round before, and then get done 8-2 to Adelaide. So I think it's just the nature of the squad depth that's there in Brisbane, losing one of the very few defenders they had with Annie Happenden out with a red card as well. Really unfortunate. It looks like, I'm not sure what Mia Bailey went off with, but she was taken out. We could see in the ambulance, so that looks like not great news for our goalkeeper. She went off late in the game, but I guess it did mean that Isabella Shuttleworth also got a debut A-League women's stint in goal for Brisbane. So, but yeah, you just got to cop it. And you know what I'll say is, once it gets to 8, you can get past anger. You just get into delirium and just being like, oh, there's another goal. So we ended up at least having some fun in the stands by the end of it, because what else are you going to do?
And was it also Minnie's 100th game?
No,
it was
that
actually her
the previous one.
102nd. Yeah. She actually came up, had the 100th game, but I think because Jack Hingett and was coming up with for his 200th in the double header, they sort of made the celebrations together. So 10 seasons, 102 games for Minnie. So she'll get a few more for Brisbane Roar. So she's absolutely done the 100 A-League women and W League games. But yeah, so I mean that was great. Minnie. Yeah, and she got like a nice presentation at the end.
With Mel Andrietta as well, I hear. So that's nice news to see the assistant coach of the Matildas back in her home turf a little bit. Obviously, she was a previous head coach of Brisbane Roar and well loved, I would have thought, as well when she was there with the club.
Yep, absolutely. Love Mel, and she was, one of the instigators of getting the Raw call together. So always really indebted to Mel.
Very nice. And Eric, do you want to take us through the last match? Because I didn't see it. And then maybe take us through the ladder as well as it stands.
Okay. So, by the way, one positive for Brisbane. Shay Connors is up to the 5-goal mark for the season. Well done, Shay. Now, the Sunday late game. So up at what we like to call Cheryl Salisbury Field in Newcastle West. Not the best lighting, but flood lighting, but it'll do. Sydney FC beat the Jets 1-0 with an absolute bomb from Princess Abini. So that was wonderful. Claire Coelho, the Jets keeper, made a number of great saves, just like the game against Victory a couple of days earlier, including a penalty save from Mackenzie Hawkesby. The Jets really made Sydney work for that win. There was absolute chaos in the final minute. The Jets won a corner. Claire Coelho, the Jets goalkeeper, went up for it. There was a goal mouth scramble. The ball went in off Coelho. Jets thought they had an equalizer, but it was ruled out. So a bit of a letdown for those of us that love chaos and keeper goals. But my take on it is I think Claire Coelho did actually foul Jada Wyman there. So all in all, Sydney probably deserved the victory.
They don't need the victory, though. They're very well on top. They could have given one away.
I mean, if they lose to Melbourne City next weekend, it's not. I mean, they're not that far off.
It's a fair point, actually. I mean, they just seem like they've been streets away from anyone. But yeah. Speaking of which, take us through the ladder so everyone can see where their team is at.
I haven't got the table. I do have the Golden Boot race, which I did.
All right, you go through the Golden Boot, and I'll go through the table, or Maj can.
All of a sudden, Hannah Wilkinson has competition. So Hannah Wilkinson was on 10 and just thought it was good. Fiona Wirtz is now on 9 and Chelsea Dorber's on 8. Then we have Catherine Zimmerman, Mackenzie Hawkesby, Shay Connors, Rihanna Polachino on 5, Cote Rojas, Courtney Vine, Holly McNamara, Rachel Lowe, and Remy Simpson on 4. And all of these players have scored more goals than the Wanderers. And 5 of them are formals, and Holly McNamara is from Western Sydney. Ha!
All right, I'll quickly take us through some of the highlights from the ladder anyway. At least in the top 4, we've got Sydney FC, Melbourne City, Adelaide United and Melbourne Victory. Adelaide United have played 1 more games than the other 3 teams in the top 4. Melbourne Victory have played only 9, whereas the others have got 10 and 11. So Melbourne Victory may be looking nice in there. Just outside, and we had Michael, our amazing graphics guy, has put together a, what does he call it? The race to the finals. So you can graphically see where your team...
Ladder. Yeah.
Yep. So you can see where your team could potentially finish if you get
that's it. That's
all the points. Perth Glory, who are currently in 5th place, just 3 points behind Melbourne Victory. Melbourne Victory have still got 2 games in hand, and it still comes down to who they're playing. But Perth Glory still in with a chance. I think Newcastle Jets, Brisbane Roar, Western Sydney Wanderers, Canberra United and Wellington Phoenix, most of those are completely technically out of the race for the finals. Newcastle Jets might have a smidge of a chance, but in reality, they probably won't be there. So we've almost got our top 4 locked in. Sydney FC, in terms of almost, Sydney FC are the only team who have locked in a final spot at this point. There's no way they could finish any lower than 4th position. Next week there's 7 games as well. They call it February Frenzy, which is great if you market it that way. It's also not great for the pressure that it probably puts on the players. And think back to, what was it, just last season? Was it Teresa Pelaia said, no, I can't play that game, and just because.
On a Wednesday, Thursday, because she's a teacher. She has work.
Yeah. So, and there are so many of these players who football is not the only thing that they do to make money. So it's interesting to have these midweek games. Tuesday night, so tomorrow night, the Wanderers play Canberra, which will be, I don't even know where that match is going to be. You'd like to think that maybe Canberra would take some points. Eric, I don't know your thoughts on that one.
What?
All right. Wednesday, we've got Melbourne Victory against Sydney FC, which will be an interesting match. I think Melbourne Victory, I don't know if you'd say that they're under the radar, but they're not necessarily as glamorous as Sydney sometimes, who people talk a lot about some of the key players with Sydney, but they don't always talk about the key players or the team that make up Melbourne Victory. Thursday, Wellington play Adelaide, which will be a big game for Wellington off the back of their first win against Adelaide with one of their biggest wins. Friday, Brisbane Roar against Canberra, which for me is always a big match because they're two big rivals. Saturday, there's
games. A pride game happening, and I'm dubbing that the salvage pride game.
I'm not sure if that's how pride game works, but let's go with that. I think we'll
see how it goes next week.
Newcastle versus the Wanderers. And then the final match of the week is Melbourne City versus Sydney FC. And I'm sorry if my internet has just gone a little bit funny there. Around the world, and I actually haven't watched any of this and I apologise, but I do have an Optus subscription. I should be watching it far more often. So Chelsea, Sam Kerr's Chelsea had a 0-0 draw against Arsenal, which has Steph Catley, Caitlin Ford and Lydia Williams. Anyone watch that match? Anyone?
Yep, I did. There
you go, Eric.
Decent kickoff. One of those nights where the ball just didn't want to go in. There was a ridiculous goal-mouth scramble at one of Arsenal's corners, which looked like a soon after that, Arsenal's Leah Wilson got away with a handball in the box. Chelsea were furious, but just conspired against anyone that wanted to see a goal. So I'm not sure who's happier with the 0-0 draw, to be honest. Yes, and also full games for Sam Kerr, Caitlin Ford, and Steph Catley. Lydia Williams was an unused substitute for Arsenal.
Okay, I was going to say you can keep going if you want. Okay, Manchester City. There you go.
I've watched all the highlights packages. So briefly, Manchester City beat Manchester United 1-0 in the derby. The goal settled by Caroline Weir, who loves scoring worldies and derbies. The Scottish superstar scored the winner in the 81st minute with a glorious 30-yard chip. Full game for Alana Kennedy for Melbourne City. Hayley Raso came on in the 84th minutes. Good thing Dale's not here because his beloved Everton lost 2-0 to Aston Villa. And when
was the last time Everton won? Huh? When was the last time Dale was happy? When was the last time that Everton won?
He supports Canberra and Everton, so.
No.
So Emily Gilnick scored the opener and played 74 minutes for Villa. We'd love to see that. Yeah. As I said, Everton now second last. Only comfort is they have a 7-point gap to the bottom place team, which is Birmingham, who they lost 2-0 to Tottenham. So sad times for Birmingham and their 7 Irish players. Kai Simon played the first half for Tottenham. Football Fern Rhea Percival scored the clinching goal late on. And to sum up this game, the Optus Sports highlights package was only 47 seconds long. So
you missed one match in there as well. I think Leicester had a 3-0 victory over West Ham United.
I haven't missed a match yet. Don't worry.
Okay.
I've got me. So, yes, at the Pirelli Stadium, West Ham couldn't get to grips with Leicester. So for West Ham, a full game for Mackenzie Arnold. Tamika Yallop came on for the second half. Good to see her recovering from COVID. So Leicester, they struggled to adjust to the WSL early on because this is their first time in the top tier of English women's football. But, good to see a newly promoted side doing well. First goal was a bit crazy. Mackenzie Arnold rushed off the line, cleared the ball into Natasha Flint, and the ball ricocheted into the net. But Leicester deserved their win. Shannon O'Brien, their highly talented young midfielder, celebrated her England under-23 call-up with a great assist for Leicester's third goal. And then I suppose I might as well do the final game, which didn't have any Aussies. Brighton beat Reading 4-1 at the oddly named People's Pension Stadium. Kaylee Green scored a hat-trick for Brighton. Reading just couldn't handle Brighton's set pieces. But Ireland's own Megan Connolly set up the opening goal. So that's pretty much it for the WSL in England.
Thank you very much. How about you take us through the rest of them? Because I think you've updated the show notes with the results. So I'm more than happy for you to take over.
Yes, we'd love to. So on to Scotland and the one Australian that plays in the Scottish Women's Premier League, Cheryl. So Jacinta Galabadarachi,
hang on. Are you saying that you want me to take Aoife Colville out of all of our discussions, or do you still enjoy talking about her?
I mean, I'll talk about her anyway. I'm just not sure an Irish international should be on the Aussies abroad section of our website. That's my issue. But anyway,
Sometimes
I like arguing.
we take what we can get. She's an Australian, an Irish Australian, or an Australian Irish. I think she has half a foot in one and maybe 3 feet, 3/4 of the rest of her in the other. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Well, let's see. So anyway, Jacinta Galabadarachi started and played 69 minutes in their Celtics midweek 2-0 loss to Glasgow City in the league, and then started and played almost a full game on the weekend in their 4th round Scottish Cup win over Rangers. Obviously a huge derby. 2-1 was the score there. So Jacinta's getting a lot of game time. Aoife Colville, not sure what the story is, but she didn't feature in either of the last 2 games for Glasgow City. In France, Ellie Carpenter started and played 74 minutes in Lyon's 8-0 win over Soyo. And in the Netherlands, Amy Harrison was an unused sub in PSV's 3-1 win over Alkmaar.
Their penultimate game, so it's only the 15th, round 15, that they're waiting for that fixture to be rescheduled at some point. But apart from that, they've played, they're up to round 18 of 18. So we're just waiting for 15 to come back around. That's how we count these days in COVID era. And then who knows when we'll see Amy. I don't know whether or not she'll come back to Australia for a little bit, or if she's re-signing there. Okay, thanks very much for that as well, Eric. We'll talk about Queens, Kings, Jokers and whatnots of the week. Madge, why don't you kick us off?
Well, yeah, I mean, I thought I'd kick off with a good news story. Melissa Barbieri, she got some plaudits this last week for celebrating 25 years in football. So it's just a fabulous achievement. So big up to Bubs for reaching a fantastic milestone, and just reading some of the achievements that she still holds the record for the most clean sheets for the Matildas. So that's a great record to sort of still have, and she's playing absolutely fantastic football for Melbourne City this season at 42 years of age. It's fantastic to see, and I thought I'd also give it just another shout out. I haven't been across all of the games from the Dub this week, but just a couple of fantastic assists. Kyra Cooney cross for Melbourne victory, I think, through to Mindy Barbieri to score. Just a fabulous little through ball. Yeah, and the Adelaide, the Dylan Holmes cross into one of Fiona Wirtz's goals against Brisbane. The cross just pin perfect. It's great to give the assist givers a bit of ups as well.
All right. I'll go through mine if we want, and then we'll throw to Eric, who will probably say something on behalf of Dale and maybe Stefan, who's not here. For me, it's not been a long time coming at all. I think it's very fast that Wellington have been just accelerating and developing in the league. That doesn't mean that they've been getting points, but you can see that the way that they've been playing has been getting better. And I credit a lot of that to Gemma Lewis, the head coach of Wellington Phoenix. I think she's been doing a terrific job, and I can't believe that she wasn't more excited or more visibly excited than what she was when they actually won the game.
I can.
It almost looked like, oh, okay, we won. Terrific. No worries. But anyway,
she's plotting the rest of the takeover.
Yeah, she's thinking about the next game. Also, I found coaches tend not to get too excited about such things because they know what can happen next when you lose.
I'm not sure about that. I have seen many an excited coach in my time. And the other Queen of the Week, shout out to Lily Alfeld, who last season played for Perth Glory, and she was terrific in there this season. She's moved over to Wellington as their goalkeeper, and I just love the poise and presence that she has on the pitch, and she just seems to be so supportive of a young and upcoming squad who've been incredibly under pressure. She's seeing far more of the ball than she might otherwise wish to see as a goalkeeper. I mean, you'd love to be winning, but also for her that she's been called up for the Football Ferns. So really, I just, I think I'm a big fan of Wellington, and the way that they've gone about their first season in the league. So congratulations to not only Gemma and Lily, but to the entire team and the support crew that keep them on the pitch as well. Eric.
Okay, so firstly, Dale had his input. So he just wanted to shout out Adelaide head coach Adrian Stenter. He's done a magnificent job developing his group of players over the last few years. And his second, shall we say, monarch of the week was any Brisbane fan that actually watched all of their A2 loss to Adelaide.
Just take a screenshot of my face for the cover photo.
Fantastic. I love it. Okay.
Harsh,
then,
so harsh.
But so on to me, the theme of my Queens of the Week is that lovely saying, all left foot goals are beautiful. So I mentioned it earlier, Manchester City's Caroline Weir, her goal to win the derby against Manchester United. I encourage you to see that, find footage of that somewhere if you haven't already. Secondly, we can't go past Fiona Wirtz for her 5-goal haul against Brisbane, only the third time someone has scored 5 times in a single A-League women's game. I do also have a joker. Sorry?
Quick question on Fiona Wirtz and the 5 goals. Was it the official notes that came out of the APL? Did it say 4 goals for her? Have they not updated it correctly, or did they, after the game, recredit a goal to someone else at some point?
Well, no, that like her 5 goals are all clearly hers. Like there's no debate on any of
I'm not saying that there's a debate on that. I'm saying the Australian professional leagues, I thought it said 4 goals for Fiona Wirtz. So I'm not sure. Anyway, we'll go back and we'll have a look at that.
On to April, and I do also have a joker related to Fiona Wirtz, and that is the APL social media admin who tweeted that Fiona Wirtz's 5-goal performance was worthy of the attention of Matildas head coach Tony Gustafsson, not realizing that Fiona is English. And I let them know that Serena Wiegman is the person you're after, and my tweet, I learned that my tweet actually made it into the APL work chat, and I hope I annoyed everyone involved with that, because that tweet was a mess. Don't make a mistake like that again.
There's plenty of messes in social media, and we should encourage all of them. The game is for everyone to make their mess.
Official accounts should know who is Australian and who is not. Not having it.
Having it. It was a little disappointing that they also tweeted out that it was Katrina's 100th game, this game, when she actually did reach that milestone a couple of games. I am not
surprised by such things. Yes. You know, for people who have,
softly with official accounts, not having it. No. Do better.
I have not been a fan of women's football for as long as Barbieri has played football. Unfortunately, I haven't been across it for 25 years.
I've been a fan for 5 years.
But even in that time, there have been so many instances, and I'm not defending Australian professional leagues social media, but I will say that things are better than what they have been in the past, where there was all sorts of tomfoolery that would go on, that they wouldn't know who it was, and post the pictures of the wrong players and all sorts of things. So generally, I think they're doing much better than what they were, and maybe there's something that we don't know, that Fiona Wirtz is trying to become an Aussie for all we know.
That's cool, but she's like 3 years away at least. So I don't know, man. I take your point. I take your point. All right. I'm not sure if there's any more around for football this week, but stay tuned to football channels. We'll put it in our show notes, or just copy and paste them from last week, really. So we'll have the She Believes Cup is kicking off soon. The Algarve Cup is kicking off. The Arnold Clark, if I've remembered that correctly, Cup is coming up soon as well. So it's a really big and exciting period, because it's the FIFA international window. So you'll get to see lots of teams play, including, and hopefully both of you can help me out, certainly England are out there playing. I think Germany as well, the USA, Iceland, New Zealand, Czechoslovakia or Czech Republic or something weird like that. Who else is playing? Anyone? Spain's playing somewhere.
I think it's that the one in England.
The Arnold Clark Cup, the one that sounds like a golf tournament.
So we'll do our best to try and find the where those will be broadcast, and hopefully we can watch them. And I think that's the thing always with women's football, that it does tend to be a little bit harder sometimes.
I did see a post that didn't have an Australian broadcaster for them at the moment. So
and we might
be dusting off the VPN.
We would not encourage people to use a VPN and illegally watch these things, but we do encourage people to watch as much football as they can.
If someone's got the rights here, surely.
Yeah, but
okay.
but if no one's got the rights here, I'll just leave it. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. I'm not digging too deeply into that, but maybe Molly Appleton, our somewhat resident legal expert, can let us know what happens with that. But yeah, if you've got a VPN, that might be the easiest way to watch it. But hopefully people will be able to see lots of those matches and watch some really good football, and 7 matches in the A-League Women's as we head towards the end of the season. So like we said, I think a couple of teams have played 11 matches. So that means this is a season where I think we're playing 14 matches in previous seasons because we didn't have as many teams. You played 14 rounds, but only 12 matches. So this time around, there are no buys. So we've still got a couple of weeks of football left, plus the finals. But before you can blink, the A-League Women's will be over. And then that just means that there's more football through NPL, which Eric is an absolute expert on in New South Wales at the very least. So there's still plenty of football, just won't be A-League Women. All right. On behalf of myself and the crew that support all of the Beyond 90 work, thank you for listening to us yet again. It's always a pleasure to bring lots of football news to you, and we love having you listen to us. Chuck us a note if there's any questions that you have. Stefan normally corrects us when we're wrong, but we haven't heard from Stefan. So if we've been wrong about anything, I apologise on behalf of the crew for that as well. But keep watching football, love your football, and bring on 2023. See you later, everyone.